All right, and we are live. Apologies for the slight delay here. We unfortunately had configured the wrong YouTube link on the Luma event page, which we just updated and just sent a blast to everyone. I'm going to wait for the others to join me. I have Alex here, and hopefully Harry joins very soon. We'll give him a minute. But yeah, maybe while he sets up his own camera and mic, I think that's why he's taking a bit extra. I'll just do an intro. So this is a special edition of office hours we're doing this time. What's special about the session? We'll talk about that. But before, I'll just do an intro on what Lovable is. So we're the team at Lovable. What we do is we want to enable anybody to transform their ideas into working software. So today, if you're non-technical, your options available aren't great. You can hire developers, which are very costly, or you can use no-code platforms that often will feel quite limiting and inflexible. So with Lovable, what you get is an ability to build full-stack applications by just using natural language, by just talking to an AI. So it will feel like as easy as having a conversation. So that's what we do. What are people using us for? They're using us for a variety of things. They're building prototypes, basically early versions of a product to validate a specific idea. A lot of people are using us to build internal tools to solve a specific problem or process and make it more effective. And lastly, some people are even using us to build fully fledged products that they're putting out there and launching and getting users. So a bit all over the spectrum, really. But yeah, that's about Lovable. But who do we have here today? I'm going to do a short round of intros. I will start. My name is Christian. I'm part of the product team here at Lovable. And I will now send it over to you, Alex.
Hi, yeah, I'm Alex. I'm working at Lovable, mostly working on AI, prompting, all these things, core products.
And then we have Harry.
Hey guys, I'm a freelance consultant, mainly working with enterprise companies and helping their ops teams move faster. 100% with Lovable, which is the awesome thing.
Cool. And then also shout out to Stefan. He's leading our community and he is in the backstage producing the event together with us. So cool. So what's in the agenda today? So as I said, it's a special edition of our office hours. It's not an ordinary one. Why? What do we do normally? We normally build live. This is not for the risk averse. It's errors occur, but we do it. It's not for the faint-hearted. And it's also a very interactive session. So we expect you to ask questions in the chat, and we'll try to ask either live or via the chat. So in previous sessions, we've always built small apps because we only have 1 hour, right? And that ends up into like basically cutting the amount of functionality we're adding to these applications, and we're never building something super complex. So that's something we want to address with this new series. And the second thing is that we also realize that there's also many important aspects of launching a product. It's not only building it. There's monetization. There's reaching out to your first users. There's audience building. There's how you market it. And these things are stuff that we haven't addressed in the past. So we want to make sure we sort of focus on this going forwards. And we'll talk a little bit more about what exactly this sort of 5 series of live events will be covering. But before we do that, just some housekeeping. So we've had a bit of we've been struggling a bit with some sort of some incidents. So I'm going to pass it over to Alex to give an update on that front. Yeah. So to you, Alex.
Hey, sorry. We had some technical issues last minute. I'm back. Cool. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about the GitHub incident. So as many of you have experienced, I think it was around Friday for us. Maybe for some of you it was Thursday during the night. Our access to GitHub was cut by GitHub. And it took us a few hours to understand what was going on and to try to have an emergency fix in place. So what happened is that we were creating too many repositories on the GitHub side, but not as a whole. It was only the repositories created in the app we use for creating your projects when you have not transferred them to your own GitHub yet. So this is not an important detail for users, but before you would transfer projects to your own organization, if you chose to, we were creating projects in GitHub. And in this organization we had, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of projects, and we were creating projects every second, something like that. And this is not very compatible with how GitHub expects an organization to be used. And we were creating too much load on their side. And I think one of the teams decided to cut access to our organization because it was compromising their performance. And after that, we tried to reach out. And one lesson we learned during this incident is that we need to have contacts at all the providers, and we do for some of the providers and partners we have. But at GitHub, so we sent a support request like anybody would do, like maybe some of you have done before, and we waited while we wrote on Twitter and everywhere. We asked for others to get some help, and in the meantime, we tried to set up another solution for hosting your repositories before you would transfer them to your own GitHub account. And so we ended up quickly putting together a solution that we shipped. And in the meantime, we got a initial response from GitHub telling us why we were banned. I don't want to say banned because it sounds like there is some beef here, but it's just why they shut down the access. And we put this new solution in production. And the initial version we released had a problem for some specific cases. So some projects got in even a worse state and were in limbo for a few days. But eventually GitHub restored our access. And we got in touch with other people in there who understood our situation and restored the access. But the long story short is that now we are not using GitHub for creating initial projects, which again, for you as a user is irrelevant. But you can still transfer to your own GitHub, and there's no problem with that, zero problem. It's completely fine. And that's how GitHub applications are supposed to work. Yeah, so as I said, lesson learned here. We've been growing very, very fast, and we've hit a lot of scale issues in the last few weeks. And I want to apologize for that. Everybody says, move fast and break things, and we're not thinking like this. I don't think this is something to be super proud of. We are moving very fast, and we don't want to break things, but some things break anyway. We're actively working on that, and we've been working on that for the last few weeks to mitigate a bunch of performance issues. I think if you use the product around, so it's starting now basically in the evening for us in Europe, and I guess middle of the day in the US, the product gets slower, and that's because we're under so much load. We struggle to handle it, and we've basically maxed out a bunch of things on our side that we just can't scale more. And I think I want to be very optimistic and to say starting next week, we're going to introduce that are going to improve quite a lot performance on that side, and are going to allow us to ship much faster new features. Because the silver lining here is that we have some very, very cool things coming up, and in the coming weeks, and it's going to be for every type of users. It's going to bring in some new users, and it's going to make the product more reliable. But we know it doesn't matter if for you, the AI, it's important that the product just works like the basic, and we really want to commit to making those things work for you. And we understand that you're working in Lovable, like Harry. So Harry is literally making money with Lovable. So when Lovable is down, he's not making money. and it's we're very proud of this, but we also understand that it's very important and very serious. So we are really committed to not moving too fast and not breaking things, is what I wanted to say. And yeah, if you're interested into more technical details, just check the incident reports.
Well said.
Awesome.
Cool. So back to why we're here today. As I said, this is a special edition of our office hours. It's its own series. And we kind of came up with the idea, talking together with Harry and Alex and the rest of the team. But I'll hand it over to you, Harry, to explain like what we're trying to do here and what we're trying to cover.
Sure. So basically, what we're trying to do here is we're going to create a product, and then we're going to go all the way to the very end and launch that product. And the idea, hopefully, is to show you guys not just how we're going to start with a product and just build it and leave it there, we're going to do all the steps. So we're going to add users, we're going to add sign up, we're going to do Stripe at some point, we'll add some API bits, and then we're going to release it on Product Hunt. The idea came from the fact that both Christian and I speak Spanish. I'm here in Argentina, and he's originally from Barcelona, but my Spanish is terrible. And whenever I try to talk to Chris, I always give him broken Spanish, maybe my accent isn't very good, etc. So we thought, what could be a simple use case of AI? And if you guys have seen Duolingo online, it's one of the most valuable startups right now, and they do something very simple. They just gamify language learning. So we thought about, well, how can we take Lovable and AI and try and build an application that's going to teach us a bit of Spanish? And in this case, I think Chris is going to drive, and he's got a lot of great ideas already put in, but we're going to take you from start to finish. So if you have any questions about what we're doing, put it in the chat, and we'll try and get to them as we kind of build this, I guess.
Cool.
Over to you, Chris.
All right, then enough talk. Let's get to building. So I'm going to share my window here, and I'm going to hopefully open Lovable. So let's get started. So the idea is to kind of get the first version of this Spanish AI tutor in this session, and we'll follow up with sessions next week and the week after that, where we're going to add more functionality. And as Harry said, eventually hoping to launch this in something like Product Hunt. That's the general idea. I'm super happy also to get feedback on what we should focus on the next sessions. But let's get started. I'm going to always start with a trick that Harry taught me, which is just basically telling it to create a blank React app. Why I do this? Why I do this is because I want to connect Supabase from the get-go. So I want to make sure that before I even add any sort of advanced front-end functionality, I get the foundations in place. So you'll see that after I get this first boilerplate, I'm going to go ahead and connect to Supabase and add authentication. Is this something you always do, Harry? Is there an exception to this rule, or?
Yeah, I think it's just about taking like logical steps moving forward, right? A lot of people, we jump to the end and build the shiny feature, but it's always good just to break down what you're doing and try and do it into smaller steps. You're starting with a blank project, and then I guess you'll connect some stuff next, right?
Yeah. So what I'm going to do next is I've created this Supabase project already. Supabase in a nutshell is basically a backend as a service. It's basically enables Lovable to just do more advanced things like store data, connect to third-party APIs in a secure way, and manage authentication. So basically, it creates a power duo between Lovable and Supabase that really makes it possible to build more advanced tools. So I've created a project. You can create a Supabase account today, and you'll get 2 projects for free that you can use together with Lovable. And what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to use this Supabase button to find the project. I have a lot of projects, as you see. So I'll try to find it in this list. Let's see.
Okay, while you find this,
yeah,
I can ask one question, or I saw 2 questions related in chat. So first one is, does the front-end framework have to be React? And the other one I saw was, can we build Angular apps? And I'm going to answer both. We do React only. We chose to have just one template, essentially one kind of tech stack. And we think it's for the better at the moment. It would be great to support a lot of stacks, but then it would make the product less reliable. It would be harder for us to focus on making just one thing work. So this is what we have chosen to do right now. I don't know if in the future it will be the same, or if as AI models get better, we can open up a bit more. But right now we're pretty happy with this choice because we think it allows you to build very powerful apps, production-grade apps. We don't have any product. Yeah. So that's it for this question around frameworks.
Cool. So what I'm doing now is...
Yeah, go ahead, Chris. I was just going to say...
I'm just going to go ahead and go to the authentication provider section, and I'm going to disable email confirmation as a quick thing, since it was recommended by Lovable. And I'm going to do another thing, which is just create a first user for me that is ready for when I add authentication. So I'll just do that. Go ahead, Harry.
Yeah, so what Christian did here is basically Usually you need to add an email provider in order for people to be able to sign up to your application. In this case, he's just disabled that, so you can just log in with any email and password that you want. A little bit risky of all of you in the audience, so don't try and troll us too much. But if you want, you can go visit it in a bit and try it out as well.
Yeah, cool. And Alex, do you want to explain what's going on here?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so here you asked to add authentication to your application, which leads our AI to decide to do some operations on the side of Supabase and set up some database tables to keep track of user profiles, which is technically not necessary for logging into an app with Supabase. So you could tell the AI that you don't want to, but it's quite common that you're going to need to anyway, user profiles and such things. So that's why it might recommend this to you. But you technically don't have to do this, as Supabase has its own authentication table by default with users and their password and all that stuff. But in our case, having a profile will let you easily add stuff like the avatar and all these things as you build your application. And I guess we will want that in our application.
Also, I'm here, Isaac, from the recent Lovable YouTube video. I'm thinking, can we zoom in a bit?
Yeah, of course.
Maybe.
Yeah,
it
there we
might
go.
help with readability. I don't know.
Yeah.
Someone saying it in chat.
Cool. We'll zoom in. And Stefan, feel free to make it full size as well with smaller images. Cool. But then this has run now. I think there was an error, but it was fixed in the next edit. So I'm just going to go ahead and see if this works. Cool. It seems like we have auth working in less than a couple minutes, which is great. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just create like the general structure of what I want users to see once they've logged in. So I'm going to say add a global sidebar for navigation and add options to access a dashboard, which should be the default page, and also chat, which can be empty for now. And I'm going to say, maybe I'm going to tell it to add the logout button at the bottom of this sidebar. I'm just going to run with that.
Whilst that runs, we had a question about adding multiple authentication from Crazy Girl. Yes, you can. Inside Supabase, maybe Christian can show you, under providers, you have all of these options. So you can go ahead and customize them and add them as stuff like logging in with GitHub, logging in with your Figma account, Apple account, etc. So I'll go read the documentation for Supabase, and auth providers is what you're looking for.
Yeah. Cool.
I can add something here, I think, is that we have this integration we really recommend. But you can technically also use anything you want because this is in code. So Supabase is definitely the preferred way, and this is the way that you more or less. But you can use something else if you want. You can integrate with whatever you want as long as you can write code for it. So just to clarify something, but we still recommend Supabase.
Someone asked the interesting question: how do I persist a good overall design? I often have some of my pages with broken footers or nav panels.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's the solution that I'm doing right now, but if you have certain sort of design principles that you want the AI to abide by, you can sort of add that in the managed knowledge and then sort of have that be present in as part of the context for all the other edits you might do. So Harry, you shared this with me. I like it. I'm going to leave it. I'm also going to tell it to as preemptively to use OpenAI models for anything you add regarding AI capabilities. And I'm going to save that. So good shout.
So the Lovable AI will always have access to the information you give it inside of the custom knowledge.
Yes.
So it's when you chat with the AI, eventually when you send multiple messages, it will start to forget about things if they're like maybe 20 messages behind. So by having knowledge inside of the custom knowledge, you can kind of sustain perhaps your design philosophy or something within the kind of context of the AI.
Yeah, that's right. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and say replace the chat page with a chat interface. interface where the user can write text in Spanish and get answers in Spanish. I am terrible at typos. Using AI. I think I'm going to say responses should be short, but educational and engaging. And maybe something on what else can I say? Yeah, I'm going to tell it to also add a chat settings sheet pane that should be present at the right, which is a future section of the page I want to use for settings. And I'll tell it to please use loading states for relevant components. And I'm just going to go ahead and shoot this. Yes.
Let's go.
So what's happening here? Alex.
All right. So here we're going to ask you dynamically for secrets when you want to connect to a third-party service like OpenAI or Stripe or I don't know any other API like this, because we don't want you to paste these things in chat because you shouldn't. And when you share the secrets with us, we're going to send them to Supabase and save them as secrets. This is the safe way of handling secrets. I think it's still not clear enough that you should not put secrets anywhere in your code. But we think it's already much better than it was before, where you could just have pasted kind of anything. But we want to guide users towards doing the right thing, even if they don't really know the best practices. And that's one of the first steps towards that. And so these secrets are going to be accessible by Edge Functions, which we haven't talked about yet, but we're going to use, which are the backend functions that will run on the Supabase side. So they will automatically get access to these secrets, and they will know that they exist. So they will know that there's one called OpenAI API key, for example.
Yeah. So I'm going to try to open this. Yeah, so here you go. It took a while to load, but here we have an Edge function section in Supabase. You can see it's been deployed. It's called Chat Spanish. And then hopefully if I go to manage secrets, I'll see the Open API key that I configured through Lovable.
Nice.
Nice.
Progress.
So, I mean, let's not celebrate too soon. Let's see if this works. Hola. ¿Estás allí? And let's see if we get, we get some answer. So the AI is definitely there. Cool. Harry, I want to ask a question to you. I know you're ex-designer, so you have a lot of knowledge here. Is this a good moment to make this look a bit nicer before adding more functionality? And do you have a magic prompt or any tips on how to do that?
I think it's good. One of my favorites to run is in the chat is make the design more elegant.
Elevated.
Elegant with a G.
Okay. Typos are understood. Cool.
Nice.
Let's see if that works.
Maybe just to summarize what you've done so far, Chris, for anybody's joined late and where people are at the moment. So Chris connected his Lovable account to Supabase and asked it to integrate and implement authorization so that users can log in. And now what we're doing is we're adding features that logged in users can utilize. And he's just built a backend chat interface with using OpenAI's API. Now we're going to try and improve the design. Oof.
Nice.
It's coming there. I think the sidebar maybe could do a little bit of a spruce up.
Cool. I mean, let's. I mean, maybe we can do another. I guess we just continue, then we can do the sort of improvements as we go. Maybe like I'm thinking that it can be pretty nice to practice language skills, not only like typing skills in Spanish. So I think I'm going to ask it to add the ability for users to use their microphone to record their voice that should be transformed into text to pre-fill the input of the chat. And And I want to say, make sure you show loading indicators for the processing in the input, and also use OpenAI in case it forgets. I've seen a bunch of these apps, they do that, and it encourages just you to actually practice the Spanish by speaking it, not only by chatting. So I think it could be a cool feature.
Nice question here from Rishi. Whilst that runs, he says, if you need to change some system prompts on the Superbase function, do we have to run the Superbase in it and update it outside the Lovable project scope, or can Lovable do that for us?
So if you want to change the system prompt of the Edge function that is using OpenAI, is that the question?
That's correct. Yeah, that's it. That's
cool.
it.
You want to answer that, Alex? Or
yeah. So the thing that's super great with Lovable and Edge functions is that you don't need to run anything outside of Lovable. So whenever you change the system prompt, which you can ask our AI to do, which gets a bit meta, it's gonna redeploy the function and just work. So you don't have to do anything by yourself. But obviously you can also check out the code, which I guess we don't talk about this enough, but because of our connection with GitHub, you can edit the code from your own editor. I know Harry does that as well. There's some hybrid coding sometimes where you work with Lovable, and then you take over the code on your own machine if you're a developer, or not if you want to change some text or something, whatever. And then if you push to GitHub, we're going to pull the code, and then we're going to update the preview. So you can work really on Lovable and your own editor at the same time.
Cool.
So that's also another option. You don't need to run any Superbase comments.
Nice. So chat is still working. I want to try the audio version of it. Hola, me gustaría hablar de animales. So I just told it to talk about animals. It's changed that into text, and now I can sort of send that a message, and I get an answer, and I can then continue again and say, mi animal favorito son los elefantes, me encantan. It's pretty fast.
Learning
works nicely.
Very fast.
Harry, I'm curious to see if it will understand your accent as well. We can work on that.
Yes.
Cool. So what do we do next?
Somebody had a nice idea, Chris.
Yeah?
If I can interject.
Yeah.
We had a commenter, I think Stefan put it up a little while ago, but it was to click on messages and have them speak to you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I like it. So let's do that. So, okay.
Not to throw you off.
No, let's convert the AI messages into, or let's let users listen to the AI messages in audio format. I don't know, make sure users can play, pause, and maybe restart messages. Start messages, and maybe show loading, or I won't say anything. I think I keep it there, and then use AI for this to make sure it actually implements AI. Sometimes Lovable can be a bit lazy and like mock stuff, so I wanted to let you do the real thing. So let's see.
That's cool. A good idea. You've broken your prompt down into multiple things rather than just saying let users do X. You're like, make sure you add these like settings that I want. Make sure that you use AI. So I think it's just like specific context here, right? Making sure you're detailed.
Yeah, so I think we talk about this every time, and I guess it's partly because we need to do a better job at it within the product. But it's really, really important to try to think as much as you can on your side before prompting, before writing a message. If you can anticipate, if you can plan, if you can be very detailed, it's much better than if you ask for something that is kind of vague, because then the AI will definitely maybe take either the lazy option or do something that's completely unexpected. And then after that, so you can either try to fix it by sending more messages and say, hey, no, actually, I want it like this, which can work. Or sometimes you're going to get stuck in a rabbit hole where it just started wrong, and then you cannot get out of it. And this is where I would definitely suggest reverting, which we can maybe, I don't know if we'll use it during the session, but in the chat, you can revert to previous versions of your project, which maybe not everybody knows. But I would definitely suggest this when things went wrong, to spend too much time fixing it. Like, it's much better to just go back in the past, and then you can basically learn a lesson about your prompt and say, okay, what I said was a bit misleading, so I'm gonna write it differently, and I'm gonna think. I thought a bit more about the feature, and I'm gonna write it in a bit more details, and it's gonna go much faster, because it's much faster to do things from a clean slate than trying to fix something semi-broken in general. So it's just a good principle to have, to not, like, go too deep and take a step back and say, you know what, no, I'm gonna redo it differently.
Yeah, I totally agree. I am like, I use revert. I revert to versions all the time, and it's a hack that will save you a lot of time. You don't want to dig yourself deeper. If you can go back and start from there, yeah, do that. We're going to improve. I think there's going to be some improvements to how we make this easier, especially when you've already reverted once, and you want to go back again. It's a bit confusing, the UI bit. So you can expect improvements there coming soon. But let's test this. I'm going to test a small message here. I'm not sure if this is going to work. Maybe I need to refresh, actually. Let me just do that to make sure. I'll just do a normal voice message.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? ¿En qué puedo ayudarte hoy con tu español?
Yes. Nice job.
Me gustaría aprender sobre la historia del Imperio Romano. Let's see if this works. So I'm not that I'm a big fan of the Roman Empire, but let's see if we can process this. It's a pretty long one. But yeah, it seems like it did.
OpenAI again to generate speech, right?
Yeah. So actually, this is interesting. So I think because of how it's been implemented, it hasn't been optimized to process bigger messages, and it's probably something super simple. So I think this error here is pointing to this issue, and I think now Lovable will be able to address this, and it should be able to transform text to voice for any number of messages. But let's see. I think I've seen this a couple times. Cool. So I'm just going to go, for the sake, refresh, and you'll see that the messages disappear. We'll address that in a second. We're not persisting anything in Supabase yet on purpose. So let's see. I'll just do text here.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? ¿En qué puedo ayudarte hoy con tu español?
Woohoo.
And then I'm just going to answer with this and see if we get the second message to also. And there's a bunch of stuff we can do, right? Like, this is Markdown that could be displayed nicely. But let's see if this runs. Cool. And maybe, what do you guys think? Should we maybe add maybe one more feature? Maybe we can do.
Claro.
Thing.
La jungla es un lugar fascinante, lleno de vida.
Nice.
It's working.
Let's go.
Cool. Let's go. So maybe we can display chat only, and I'll let any of you maybe give a bit of insight to what it is and why we added it, and maybe we can plan a translate feature here that will basically take the AI messages and translate them to English in case you want to see them in your own language.
Sure. Alex, I think you could talk on the technicals. I have an example of day-to-day use as well.
Yeah. So chat mode is available through our new labs section in the product, which you can enable through your settings. So we're gonna try to add things in there without overthinking them, and just putting them out there and see if you like it, if you like them and if you use them, because there's so many ways we could change the product, and maybe we need to just try some things out. And chat mode is something that a lot of you have requested, and we've been thinking about this, whether like in some ways you should not have to go into that mode. It means that the regular mode is not working well enough. So that's one way of thinking. We should not ship this, and we should try to make the normal mode work better. But there's a bit of there are two conflicting things here. There is the need for planning and for we call that rubber ducking in software engineering. Talking to someone and trying to think about what you're going to do in more details. The part where you just act on it, and we think that chat mode is kind of this mode where you can plan a little bit better your next features. And I know some of you also just don't like that sometimes you ask our AI about anything, and it's like, oh, just let me do this thing, and you didn't want it to write code, and it's kind of eager to write code.
Let's show how you.
It's pretty hard to find the right balance.
Let's show how you like enable chat
Yes.
labs features.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
For like when you first sign up on Lovable, you don't actually have access to the chat only mode because we're testing it out. So we have added this little labs feature. I think it's over there, and then account settings, and then account settings again. And then if you scroll down, you can toggle this on. So right now it's toggled on. So you have to toggle that such that the white part of the toggle moves to the right. And that way you will have this little thing at the bottom left where you can switch from default to chat only. And on chat only mode, it won't program. It will only chat with you.
Yeah.
So that's like a safe way to plan things.
Thanks, Isak. So what happened here, Alex? I think the AI was too keen to code anyways. So I think it still went into coding mode despite being in chat mode. And it didn't do any changes because we don't allow it to programmatically, but at least it planned and thought about what it's going to do. And I guess typically you would change to default here, and then you would do.
Yeah, this is why this feature is in.
Go ahead.
That's why this feature is in the labs and not in production, because it's still wonky.
Yeah.
So I can speak more on like big projects here. Chat mode's super useful for those moments where there are lots of errors and you don't know what's going on, and whatever you put prompt-wise, nothing's going right. And what you can do here is just switch to chat mode and just say, can you like take a look at this problem? Try and be as detailed as you can to describing it, and then say, what would you suggest as a plan, which is what Christian did here. You can then check its thinking, make sure that it's covered everything that you wanted in this case. And then usually you can just write what Chris put, which is implement the above or go, or that sounds great, you know, and get going.
Yeah. And maybe to just go back to the question we had on the system prompt of the OpenAI edge functions using OpenAI. So if you open the code, it's always interesting to see like what system prompt is being used and instructions. And here, for example, for the translation functionality you see here, it's being told that it's a translator and it should, given a Spanish text, transform that into English, and that's the only task. So these are nice implementation details that you get when you sort of inspect the code. But yeah, let's go to the testing of the actual translation functionality. So we get this little icon here, and let's see. There's no loading indicator, which is not great, but we can fix that easily. And here you see the translation of this message. So it's up and running. So that's good. Also realize like you didn't have to put the OpenAI key because it's always using the same service. So we haven't been prompted to add more secrets into Supabase. And also something I did, or something I do on purpose often, is like I create different edge functions for each sort of like mini AI capability on purpose to just keep things clean and nicely and separated in Supabase. And I also suspect it helps the AI keep track of all the backend endpoints better, rather than doing a huge edge function that does multiple things. Cool. I think I'm gonna add persistence. Right now, you refresh, you lose everything. That's not a product. That's not something that would be allowed. So I'm actually gonna tell it, can you persist the messages and audio recordings? And then I'm gonna tell it, keep in mind, I want you to support several chat threads, and the threads should be shown in the settings tab. Does that sound good?
Looks good.
Okay, let's go.
Nice. There was a question in the meantime that I lost. This one, I will bring it back. Someone asking about the limits. I guess the limits here, it means the credits you have in your usage. Someone asking basically if you ask for more work, is it more expensive in terms of credits? So that's not how Lovable works right now. So every message you send to make a code edit is costing you 1 credit. So I don't know if we use the word credit, but basically you understand what I mean. Or some of you say tokens. You don't pay for when you ask the AI to fix for errors. Because we want to be incentivized to make these things work. And we also understand that as far as users are concerned, it doesn't make much sense. And currently the chat mode also does not use credits when you send chat messages. But I definitely don't want to promise that it's going to be like this forever. We're testing the feature. We also don't want you to use it as a free ChatGPT replacement. So we have to find the right balance here. But that's how it is at the moment.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems that you may come as a first-time user is that you're going to try and build the app in one prompt. But the AI, unfortunately, right now, it isn't that smart as much as we want it to be. So it's better in this case to feed it the smallest step-by-steps that we've been doing, so that it doesn't get confused. Because trying to make it do too many things at once will just not work right now.
Yeah,
but.
So Harry, I have a question actually there. So when you how do you provide normally Lovable with the context of the entire project and what the goal is to give it sort of like a milestone that is more than just the next iteration? Do you use anything else? Do you include that mostly in the initial prompt, but tell it to start with a specific feature, or using custom knowledge for that, the knowledge of a project to manage that? How are you doing this today?
Yeah, there's a couple of ways around it. I would say right now, commercial wise, we're not really doing much in terms of telling an applicate, trying to put into the system knowledge everything that we're going to do within an app. I think quite naturally from building, you find that the direction of your app, it will go in different directions as you build. But there's been a lot of development in this kind of end now. So you can create requirements files and tell Lovable that that's where your requirements for the project are. Sometimes even just putting these are the core 3 features I always want you to remember in the system knowledge as well. Even just asking it in chat mode, I want to set up this specific project. What do we need to do in terms of steps to get to the end goal? This tool is great at planning, let alone writing code. So I would really try out the chat mode if you get a chance and see if you can come up with some cool apps.
Here, someone asked a very interesting question. So sometimes you get errors or you get problems, even though there isn't a build error, even though you don't get the try to fix pop-up. And that is something that usually happens when you program and you develop things, where your program runs perfectly fine, but it doesn't do the things that you want it to do. So those are kind of a different category of errors. And those are actually the most common errors that occur. And to resolve them, you have to be very clear with the behavior that you want to see from the AI, right? So if you want something to occur, you want this to happen when you press the button, but something else is happening, then you want to kind of express that to the Lovable AI in exactly that way, right? When I press this button, I want this to occur, but this is actually happening. And that way you can resolve those errors which don't have a clear kind of cause. But that's it's interesting. When you program, that happens all the time, right? You implement something and it does something that you don't want it to do, and then you have to keep on iterating. So you kind of when you use Lovable, you're not writing any code, but you actually kind of develop the same kind of mental toughness as if you were programming, right? I think you do learn kind of you learn system designs and you learn kind of product design while you're building with Lovable. So I think it's I think you become better the more you build with Lovable, and you can build things more quickly and kind of dodge a lot of the errors. So yeah, that was a long answer, but I think it provided some value to the people. The Lovable.
I think Harry is a great example of someone who has become basically a developer and has merged with the AI. And there's going to be many users. I think many users of Lovable or similar products, they don't know much when they start, and they slowly get introduced to some code. And in the start, they're kind of scared, and then they slowly get deeper and deeper, and they essentially become just software engineers of 2024, 2025. And I think it's very, very cool. And you shouldn't. And I think it's the lesson here is that you shouldn't be afraid of looking at code.
I was going to say that. Don't be fearful. Just get your feet in. Start. Build something. Build a thing.
Yeah. Cool. So while you guys were commenting on these things, I added basically persistence. So I think right now you refresh, you still get the history of messages. We can verify this happening by going to Supabase, clicking on the table editor, and seeing we have both a table storing chat messages with the stuff I just discussed with AI, and also the chat threads and the profiles table. So this is in place. And the next thing I told the AI to focus on is basically, all these AI apps now, they all have this sort of AI, a lot of non-AI apps, they often have a small AI feature that they add, and they always use the same emoji, which is the sparkle emoji, which I think is pretty funny. So I've told it basically to add a similar sparkle emoji button that then will just generate a suggested message in Spanish that is connected to the conversation that the user has with AI already. So let's see if this works at the first try. Cool. Yes, it seems like it generated it, and it also makes sense. It's talking about Barcelona, which was the thread I had ongoing already. So that's great. I don't know how this will actually help learning. So that's you can question whether this is a good feature or not. But I still think it might actually make you a bit more creative. Cool. So you see this is still popping up. It doesn't have the loading indicator, which is a bit janky, but we can fix that.
Christian, I just wanted to ask you, because we had a bunch of errors and you pressed ask to fix in the meantime. And if you want to get over, just look at them, and it would be interesting to see what happened. And just to show us it's not.
Yeah.
It's not
so
scary.
here, what did we do? Here we added persistence, and as I guess a side effect of that, it did a bunch of type errors. So it's basically not using the right format for some of the parameters of the variables that are being passed around in the code. So that's one of the, I think the first error I got, and then I just clicked try to fix. And I think that led to a working state to get us to a working state as well. Typically, I don't know what you guys think, but for me, if it's if I can click twice on the button, ask AI to fix, and I get to a working state, I feel good. If I start pressing more than twice and 5 and 6 times, then I know I'm not in a good place. And that's for me like a red flag to be like, Christian, look at the versions, find a working version, go back, and then start again. Because if not, the AI is just stuck in a hole, and doing more of the same thing is not going to be helpful. Another thing we can do is maybe you could try maybe chat mode and sort of discuss and push the AI to reflect a bit. But yeah, either doing that or reverting to a working version, I think will be my suggestions. But maybe you guys have other ideas.
Yeah, I think it's.
I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Harry.
I was just going to say, I think that it's like third time's the charm. Fourth time, probably it's messed up, and you need to go another route. And I think you spoke to it really greatly, Alex, and you as well, Chris. Like just don't feel like you're stuck and there's no way forward. It's like there's probably a way around it, and it's just a matter of like prompting correctly rather than having to get into the code and fix bugs and stuff. Like you can get past most of these pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm going to add here
one thing I can add about this. Sorry. If you have a few errors as well, it's also up to you to potentially try to report it a little bit differently. And just like you do with another person, if you tell them something and they keep on failing, you would not just tell them the same thing over and over. You would try it another way. So I can really recommend just sometimes, okay, this is the situation. This is what we've done. Just try to help the AI. The AI is not infinitely intelligent yet. So you have to kind of recap and try to just think of it another way. Try to be creative on your side as well. So obviously we want the product to do this, of course, but it's not perfect yet. And so I can recommend to not get stuck into pressing try to fix like 20 times in a row. Like you're probably not gonna go anywhere if you do that. And you might have to try to revert or think differently.
Yeah. So here we have a bunch of 2 errors at least. Cool. I'm just gonna. I think actually this makes sense. It's telling me that it's trying to save the audio speed for a specific user in their profile to know what. So sorry, I didn't say what I was changing. So what I asked it just a couple seconds ago is, can you add a setting for users to configure the speed of the voice of the AI responses when they're like kind of transformed to audio? And I think it's trying to store the audio speed setting in the profiles, but the setting does not exist because we haven't created it. And I think there's also a bunch of other type issues. So I'm gonna, in this case, it's the first time I'm getting the issue. As we just said, I'm gonna try and see if the AI can handle this.
Nice.
So I'm curious about. Okay, nice. I think the AI made some kind of silly mistake before, so I'm happy to see it if it fixes it now.
At least it created here. This is the migration that will alter the profiles table and add a column for audio speed. So that seems to work. And now once that migration is run, it's probably going to do some edits in the front end as well. And maybe while this runs, should we start thinking about like how we want to, because this is obviously like the first step towards building a product that we want to maybe put out there eventually after we do a couple of these sessions. How are we going to monetize this? Has anybody thought about like, are we going to maybe not add monetization now because that's too ambitious, but maybe just add a limit on the free credits or so we don't like spend a lot of money generating these responses? Tokens are not free. Does anybody have any thoughts?
I think credits, as you said, is cool. We could then give the link to the audience. They could try it out, but we'll limit them. So we won't get spammed on API usage. Did this work, the audio?
Yeah, kind of, I think. It's a bit janky to scroll, but let's see.
I guess one of the things to call out here is that you've done all of this in about 18 prompts, give or take, which is insane to get so far.
Yeah, I don't know if it's laggy for some reason, but let me just refresh here. Let's see if I can get this. I think there's an error with the component.
You might need to add yours as well, maybe.
There you go.
So I think what's happening here. Okay, nice, cool.
Let's see if it works. So I'm going to just test this. I'm going to create a new response. So we're talking about Barcelona. ¿Dónde se encuentra Barcelona? ¿En qué país? It's a bit, not having a loading indicator here makes me a bit nervous because I don't know whether it's processing or not. So obviously there's a bunch of small things we could do. And here what we're testing is that this will be a faster. Let's see. Maybe I should have tested slower, which makes maybe...
Claro, Barcelona se encuentra en España, específicamente la región de Cataluña.
Yes, it worked.
Too fast, maybe.
Sounds like any Spanish speaker to me. Sounds good.
Cool. Okay, we have 6 minutes. So we were saying credits, Harry. You think that's a good idea?
Yeah, I think it's good. We can then in the future we can charge for credit top-ups, and then our app is usage-based. So the more people use it, the more money we can essentially charge them for using the service. But then we can also set like a free tier, right? So we'll know that all free users will at least be able to do X amount of messages every time they join the app.
Okay. I'm going to give it here a bit of help or like advice. We just added the playback speed as a setting for the profile of the user. I'm going to tell it to do the same to add the credit count there. And then what counts as a credit here? Actually, that's a good question.
Ooh.
So maybe any AI generation?
Yeah, so that would be what? Audio playback and chat messages from the AI response.
So I guess it's AI message. It's I guess it's text to audio, audio to text, and translations. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And then what should happen when it hits the limit? Show a modal. Okay, let's do this. As usual, doing some typos to go faster. While this loads, what do people have opinions on? So we're thinking of this as a series of five sessions. We're going to be rotating on who does the building, but we want to build on the same app. So what do people think on like what could be cool things to add to such a AI tutor app? I would love to get some thoughts in the chat, and maybe we can sort of do some brainstorming while we add this last feature.
Yeah. And I have a question related to this about custom domains. I guess we've talked about this before. So we know lots of you want the support in Lovable to be better for this, and we're working on it. But I guess to go back to your plan, Christian, the plan is to go to production with this app. So there might be some, I guess we're not entirely sure, but we're probably going to deploy it on a specific domain and go all the way.
Yes. So if you're interested in deploying, adding Stripe, how would you market the app? Where would you get your first users? Follow Lovable on Twitter or YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube as well. And within the next 2 or 3 sessions, we'll show you exactly how we will take this app and deploy it to the public. But now we're in credit domain.
Yes. Let's see if this works. It's probably deploying the Edge function. So that's what happens when you see the AI has stopped coding, but you still see the sort of loading indicator. It's typically because there's some deployment happening in the background most of the time.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this before I forgot. Again, this is our product is not perfect, and I think this is one of these instances where, as a user, there's no way you can understand what's going on. But yeah, so Edge functions, or there are a bunch of other background things that can happen after you've seen the response from the AI. And I don't think we're very, very clear on what's going on. We're definitely not clear about it. And sometimes there might be situations where you start using your updated UI, but the Edge function updated yet. So it could lead to some errors. So it's probably a good thing to be aware of, and we definitely need to do a better job at this in the product to make you understand that we are fully done. But sometimes you might still be, or there might be some weird syncing issues. So it's something to be mindful of, and sometimes just taking a step back and 4 seconds for this loading indicator to be gone is a good thing.
Yeah. And the last thing I just told it to do is I can't, like, it might well be implemented, but the user doesn't see any indication of how many credits. I'm just asking it to display it somewhere and to hopefully keep updated as actions take place. So we're getting a good old error. I'm just going to trust the AI here as well. I'm not sure what this is. Maybe some error with how it's importing some component.
Yes.
Yeah. I have to point at the irony here that you want to see your credits, Christian, in the app you're building, and that I don't think you can see it in Lovable.
No, that's a good point. At least it's a bit more.
I think I have to put it out on behalf of the chat here.
Yeah, cool. But it seems like that did the trick, and we see the credits. Now let's actually make sure that this worked. Oh, maybe not.
Oh, you're out of credits.
Let's see if I would just refresh to make sure, and then run. Okay, it seems that there's some error. Okay, I think I'm going to maybe ask the AI to fix here. Do you have a hint on what maybe check constraint credits non-negative? It's interesting. Why would it be non? Ooh, I think I know what happened.
Did I remove or something like that?
Yeah, maybe.
Edge function deployment?
Maybe. I'm going to trigger this again, and weird. And now it worked. Let's see if it actually leads into. Yeah, so there was something janky there. Maybe it was a broken state, but we see at least that the credits have been like deducted.
We all thought it was over for a minute, but we did it. Yes. Oh, there's a
yeah, we did. There's something here. I think it's something with the enter versus button. But anyways, I'll have a look at that. But just to summarize, we have an app that basically implements AI to allow you to have a discussion with a Spanish tutor. You can record your voice if you want to and convert that into text. You can also listen to the AI response via audio to learn about pronunciation. And then you can also translate if you want to see a response. We have some basic support for credits as well that limits the free tier. So not something I would ship now, but definitely something we can work on for the next couple sort of office hour sessions and get to a stage. Maybe we'll be Harry adding some cooler functionality the next time, and then Alex doing a session where we're maybe focusing on stuff like gamification. And as Harry said, the last 2 sessions will probably be more like around topics like reaching out to your first users, building an audience, and eventually launching this as a real thing with all the sort of finishing touches. So this is only a starting point. But maybe before wrapping up, and so Harry, do you have some early ideas on where we could take this app and stuff we want to add?
Well, I wouldn't say I wasn't cheating if we'd already discussed some of this before, but I do like the idea around like image generation, perhaps adding like an admin portal so that us as owners of the app, we can come in and see the data, manage users. We could push the design a bit. I think we can take a lot of inspiration from Duolingo around like gamification. How can we add streaks to this, get people like more involved, and at the end of the day, just increase our retention of users and try and make a useful app. I think that's the main thing. Maybe some people are going to start here with like, how can I make a shit ton of money? But you know, if you build something useful that like solves a problem, you'll find that like the people and the money will come after as well. So not to say that we aren't going to get dominate the world with this app, but yeah, I think it's a great start. What about you guys?
Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I just want to push this all the way and see that it's a real thing, that it can, I don't know, it can send emails, like all the boring stuff, I guess, to some extent, but that's the stuff you need to go to production. And I just want to encourage everyone that has an idea to just start building it, because you can, and it's worth it, and you're going to learn to use the product better along the way. Maybe you're going to learn to code along the way as well. So it's really worth trying. And I just want to like, zoom out a bit, and this is insane what we built in less than an hour. This stuff, but it's insane. It's so cool, and we're gonna show you that it's not, we're not just building Twitter demos like, oh, this looks cool, but it doesn't work. No, it can work.
Yeah,
and we're gonna prove it in the next weeks and go all the way.
Cool. Yeah, I agree. We have slightly been desensitized by our lost sort of the amazement or the wow effect of these things because we work with them every day, but it's actually mind-blowing. Cool. Maybe a last set of shout outs. So you can go to Discord. That's where we have a lot of our community. We also launched a new support page that you can access to get help and get on request future requests and maybe get access to support. And we will be doing these hopefully weekly on Thursdays, and we'll be announcing them on Mondays. And feel free to reach out with ideas on where you want us to take this in the next days. And I think that's it. Thank you so much for tagging along, and looking forward to build more. And shout out to Stefan for manning the chat and doing the production on this.
Shout out, Stefan. Thanks. And thank you guys for joining.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Bye.
Have a good one.